The Treaty of Zuhab concluded between the Ottoman Empire and Safavid Iran in 1639 lasted quite a long time, as both sides complied with the terms of the agreement. Time passed and in 1694 Sultan Hosein became the new Shahinshah, who turned out to be a very weak ruler. The new Shahinshah practically did not take part in government. During the reign of Sultan Hussein, the clergy gained enormous power, who began to pursue a policy of intolerance towards Sunni Muslims, Christians and Jews, and also made attempts to forcefully convert followers of Zoroastrianism to Islam. Of course, Sunni Muslims living in the northern provinces of the Safavid state did not like the policy pursued by the Iranian authorities. In 1717, the Sunnis of Shirvan and Kurdistan raised an uprising. The rebels, of course, were actively supported by fellow believers in the person of the authorities of the Ottoman Empire, thanks to which the uprising covered vast territories. The problem of the Shahinshah did not end there. The fact is that back in 1709, taking advantage of the weakening of the Safavid state caused by the inept rule of Sultan Hosein, the leader of the Ghilzai tribe, Mirwais Khan Hotaf, managed to capture the city of Kandahar and the surrounding territories. The Safavids sent a small army to regain control of the city, but Mirwais Khan managed to defeat it, after which he declared himself the Emir of Kandahar. Since the Shahinshah was practically not interested in state affairs, the Safavid army did not undertake any new serious attempts to recapture the city. When uprisings began in the Safavid state and the power of the Shahinshah became even weaker, the new Emir of Kandahar, Mir Mahmud Shah Hataki, who was a Sunni, decided to take advantage of the favorable situation and try to seize power in the Safavid Empire. Having subjugated the provinces adjacent to Kandahar, he, having gathered an army of 20,000, began a military campaign, planning to capture the capital of the Safavid state, the city of Isfahan. During the offensive, the army of Mir Mahmud Shah did not meet serious resistance. It captured the city of Kerman by storm and plundered it, after which it continued to move deep into the possessions of the Safavids. In turn, the Shahinshah, knowing about the invasion of the world of Mahmud Shah, managed to gather a large army in the vicinity of Isfahan, planning to destroy the enemy in a pitched battle. On March 8, 1722, in the vicinity of Isfahan, a battle took place between the 20,000th Afghan army and the 50,000th army of the Shahinshah. The Safavid army was more numerous and better armed, but due to disagreements between the military leaders, it was unable to act as a single unit. In a bloody battle, the Afghans managed to defeat the Safavid army, the remnants of which hastily retreated to Isfahan. In turn, Mir Mahmud Shah's army laid siege to the city. In June 1722, Shahinshah's son Tahmasp Mirza managed to leave the besieged capital and escape to the north of the Safavid state to the city of Qazvin. Soon a third party to the conflict appeared. On July 27, 1722, the ruler of the Russian Empire, Peter the Great, who had long planned to build a trade route to India, having established control over the western coast of the Caspian Sea, began his Persian campaign. The Russian army, moving deep into the territory of the Safavid state, gradually established control over the Caspian coast, engaging in battle with both the Safavid garrisons and the rebels who rebelled against the power of the Shahinshah. Meanwhile, a severe famine began in Isfahan, besieged by the Afghans, so on October 22, 1722, the city was forced to capitulate. Mir Mahmud Shah proclaimed himself the new Shahinshah of Iran and, in order to legitimize his power, married one of the daughters of Sultan Hosein, leaving him and his entire family in Isfahan as captives. In turn, Tahmasp, having learned about the overthrow of his father, proclaimed himself the new Shahinshah and began to make attempts to enlist the support of the rulers of the provinces, who did not recognize the authority of Mir Mahmud Shah. However, Tahmasp did not have the strength to resist Mir Mahmud Shah, who was gradually establishing control over the territory of the Safavid state, so when the Afghan army approached, he was forced to hastily leave Qazvin and flee to Tabriz. Watching how the Safavids are rapidly losing control over the territories of their state, the Ottoman Sultan Ahmed III decided not to stand aside either and expand the borders of the Ottoman Empire. In 1723, the army of the Ottoman Empire invaded the territory of the Safavid state, planning to establish control over the western part of the South Caucasus. Since only small local garrisons opposed the Ottoman army, it managed to quickly break their resistance by capturing one city after another. Tahmasp II was well aware that the situation was critical, and therefore, on September 12, 1723, the envoy of the Shahinshah Ismail Bek signed the St. Petersburg Treaty, according to which the Safavid state, in exchange for help in the fight against the Ottoman Empire and Afghan tribes, recognized the transition of the Caspian Sea coast to the Russian Empire. However, the Safavid state never received help from the Russian Empire, since the Shahinshah refused to ratify the signed treaty, but this fact did not prevent the Russian army from continuing to establish control over the Caspian coast. The Ottomans also did not waste time in vain, their army continued to advance deep into the territory of the Safavids. By the beginning of 1724, the likelihood of a clash between the Ottoman and Russian empires had seriously increased, as their armies could simply collide with each other during the capture of Safavid territory. To avoid such a scenario between the Russian and Ottoman empires, on June 23, 1724, the Treaty of Constantinople was signed, which determined the conditions for the division of the northwestern territories of the Safavid state. In turn, Tahmasp II did not agree with the terms of this agreement, but he did not have the strength to resist the armies of the two empires. By September 1724, the Russian army managed to establish complete control over the western and southern coasts of the Caspian Sea and, to their surprise, discovered that it would not be possible to create a trade route to India, since there were no rivers connecting the Caspian Sea with the Indian peninsula. Realizing that it was impossible to realize the main goal of the Persian campaign, the Russian army stopped the offensive. Meanwhile, the Ottoman army, continuing to move deep into the territory of the Safavid state, established control over the cities of Tabriz and Qazvin, forcing Tahmasp II to hastily move to Astrabad. Tahmasp II, having moved to Astrabad, continued to attract to his side the rulers of the provinces, who did not recognize the authority of Mir Mahmud Shah. It should be mentioned that many rulers of the province were in no hurry to help Tahmasp, and preferred to stay on the sidelines in order to find out how his confrontation with Mir Mahmud Shah would end. In turn, Mir Mahmud Shah was well aware that his power was under threat, so in February 1725 he ordered the execution of all representatives of the Safavid family who were in captivity. However, the execution of the Safavids did not help Mir Mahmud Shah to retain power. Already on April 22, 1725, he was overthrown from the throne and killed as a result of a conspiracy led by his cousin Mir Ashraf. In an attempt to consolidate his power, Mir Ashraf sent envoys to the Ottoman Sultan with a request to recognize him as the legitimate ruler of Iran. Since the Sultan himself planned to establish control over Iran, he of course refused to recognize Mir Ashraf as a legitimate Shahinshah. Realizing perfectly well that an ideal situation had developed for the capture of Iran, the Ottoman Sultan ordered his army to launch a campaign against Isfahan in order to establish control over the capital and the entire territory of Iran, with the exception of the lands that, according to the Treaty of Constantinople, were to become part of the Russian Empire. The Ottoman army moved towards Isfahan, practically without serious resistance. The garrisons in the cities were not large, so most of them capitulated without a fight, considering the resistance of the Ottoman army useless. Meanwhile, Mir Ashraf hastily gathered all available forces to the capital in the hope of stopping the Ottoman army in its vicinity. In the battle that took place in the vicinity of Isfahan, luck was on the side of Mir Ashraf. As a result of a bloody battle, he managed to stop the Ottoman army and push it back from his capital. At the same time, Mir Ashraf was well aware that the Ottoman army would definitely return, so in September 1727 he was forced to make peace with the Ottoman Empire. Under the terms of this agreement, Mir Ashraf recognized the transition under the rule of the Ottoman Sultan of the South Caucasus, as well as parts of central Iran. Meanwhile, in 1726, Tahmasp II had a new ally in the person of Nadir Khan, who turned out to be a talented military leader and very soon led the entire Safavid army. Nadir Afshar was lucky, thanks to which he managed to inflict several serious defeats on the army of Mir Ashraf, and regain control over vast territories. On November 29, 1729, Nader Afshar managed to occupy Isfahan, after which Tahmasp II was solemnly elevated to the Shah's throne. However, by this time Tahmasp was already a nominal ruler, and all real power was concentrated in the hands of Nader Afshar. On March 8, 1736, Nader Afshar proclaimed himself the new Shahinshah of Iran. On this the history of Safavid Iran ended and the period of the Afsharid Iran began, which, however, did not last long. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell so as not to miss new videos.